Hi, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. It's great to be here as always. Thank you for tuning in. Happy Tuesday, and you're watching the VSO Gun Channel. A couple days ago, I did a video that was called something along the lines of liberals are freaking out and buying guns over the election results. And it was a relatively popular video. But many of you asked me to point you to some articles because I said that there were articles popping up. And I didn't want to basically give free press to a continuously dying press corps that's entirely out of touch, basically. Well, I found one today that I would like to focus on because I find it considerably problematic. This one comes from The Guardian, which I would also point out begs for money first thing after you finish reading the article. Case in point. And this is: women and LGBTQ plus people take up guns after Trump's win. Quote, "We need to protect ourselves." The reason that I picked that one isn't because of the headline or anything. There are some things in the article that I find deeply problematic. And it's not even the straight up lying about things. She was filling up with gas in Charleston, South Carolina, when a white man in a red MAGA hat shoved her up against a gas pump. She says she elbowed the man and then drove off. He told me that my N-word president couldn't protect me anymore because it was Trump country. Alec, I'll take things for 1,000 that never happened. But while we're on the topic of fearing your government and discrimination, outgroups have always been persecuted throughout time and will always be persecuted throughout time. And you can assign a whole bunch of reasons for that. However, I prefer to use the work of Jane Goodall on chimpanzees. Chimpanzees are nearest relative when it comes to evolution, if you believe in that sort of thing, do three things that we thought were uniquely human behaviors: war, outgroups, and genocide. Do you think that it is a coincidence that our nearest cousin evolutionarily conducts those three behaviors that mimic ours quite considerably? I don't think that's a coincidence whatsoever. I believe that it is ingrained in our nature to behave this way. And the only thing that really keeps that from happening is the rule of law, which is enforced by the threat of violence by the government in retribution for said acts. And if you go with the nice people thing, that is a product of having your needs met by your society, like being able to flip the light switch on or go to the grocery store and get a donut. Coffee. Coffee's a big one. So if you are somebody who has suddenly found yourself concerned about the potential behaviors of your government and what they might do to you, welcome in, because unfortunately you're about 20 years too late, because the lesson of the 20th century was that government is always the problem and has been responsible for the deaths of hundreds of millions of people across the globe, and you should fear your government. That is why the founders of your country recognized your right to keep and bear arms against not only your fellow citizen that might do something crazy to you, but your government as well. And we need only, I don't know, how about a Waco picture? What you are looking at is the death and progress of 76 American citizens. 28 of them were women and children. So yes, I believe that everyone should prepare to defend themselves, especially women and members of marginalized groups. And don't even get me started on the gun control is racist thing, because we'll wade into a puddle that is so deep that we won't be able to get out of.
Gentlemen, prepare to defend yourselves.
Wow, deep tangent. I am sorry. I am very prone to those. What I find deeply problematic about this article, and the reason that I've decided to bring it to the forefront, is the multiple references to tasers and pepper spray as viable alternatives to lethal force protection, specifically for marginalized groups and women. That is absolutely asinine to me. And I'm going to explain why that is, that this article just straight up deletes or does not mention or does not even consider from a self-defense perspective. And then I'm going to give you some suggestions to my lady friends out there for things that they should consider for self-defense, as well as some personalities in the female self-defense space that they should consider following. That and more after we hear a quick word from today's sponsor. Sights are very much a point of personal preference for people, and my personal preference is for the big dot sight from XS. Now, they make a whole bunch of different variations out there, but generally speaking, what you're looking at is a photoluminescent ring that charges up with the ambient light, and then a tritium vial in the center. So regardless of lighting conditions outside, there'll be something for you to pick up. Now, I've been working with XS for a long period of time. I was a client of theirs before they were a client of mine, and I thank them very much for being a supporter of the mission here at the VSO Gun Channel for a long period of time. Go give them some love. Okay, so pepper spray and tasers. These are both items that are used for the temporary incapacitation of belligerents. And I'm going to speak to both of these items as someone who has had them used on him. Voluntarily, I might add. Make sure there's a good distinction there. And I think that that is an important context whenever somebody is talking to you, whether they're a viable use for self-defense. Let's start with taser. And I'm going to assume when we're talking about the taser, we're talking about the projectile weapon that shoots the probes that incapacitates through an electrical shock. If we're talking about the handheld stun gun thing, throw that thing away. That thing is more than likely going to get you punched square in the face than it is going to protect you against somebody. So when we're talking about the projectile weapon that incapacitates with the probes through an electrical shock, there are some important nuances there. First of all, you must get at least 2 of the probes to contact for an electrical shock that is capable of incapacitating someone. And you must get them in a conductive way, which means that thick clothing can absolutely be a factor. The other thing that is important is environmental. You must be very close to this person, and if it is wet or raining outside, it is very likely that you will also be party to an electrical shock. So you must keep that in mind. They are also not very accurate. We've seen video after video after video out there of taser deployment not incapacitating the target. And part of that is the accuracy thing, and that is just simply due to physics. Whenever you got a multi-projectile weapon, those projectiles move about the center away from it, and there's a cone of accuracy, and as you increase the distance, the hit chance precipitously declines. And then on top of that, there's a certain percentage of the population that straight up are immune to the electrical shock of the taser for whatever reason. We don't really understand it, but there are videos out there of people taking the probes straight to the chest without a shirt on and literally grabbing hold of them and just pulling them out. Again, some people are just freaks of nature. The other thing about that I will point out is once the shock is administered, it goes for a couple seconds, you have to reinitiate that to keep the person down. There are a finite number of charges, and this is your flee time. So if you don't have it's not like you zap the person and the altercation is over. There is still a substantial burden on you to get the hell out of Dodge after that. So we should just understand the limitations of that technology. Of the two, the taser is the better one. So now let's go to the pepper spray. The pepper spray is deeply problematic because it suffers from many of the same problems that the taser does as far as like the close range. There's multiple different forms of it. There's the spray, there's the gel, there's the fog, there's the, all of them. The little keychain things are absolutely worthless, but some of the other items that are a little bit bigger and a little bit more powerful are, shall we say, difficult to carry. We talked about environmental with the taser and the electrical shock in the water, right? What happens more frequently than precipitation in the world is wind. And wind direction is exceptionally important. If you spray someone with the pepper spray and the wind is in your face, it is going in your face as well. And I want you to understand what happens when when you spray somebody with pepper spray. I want you to think of the hottest, spiciest, nastiest chicken wing that you've ever eaten in your entire life. Multiply the spicy level by 5 or 10, And instead of putting it in your mouth, I want you to jam it right in your eyeball. And then I want you to drag it across and jam it in the other one, right? This is what the feeling is going to be like. 99 times out of 100, it will not cause immediate blindness. In fact, I have a video somewhere from years ago of one of my friends, Tom, at Tactical Response, where we sprayed him directly in the eyeball. I mean, like, pried his eye open and squirted it directly in his eye. And he was able to pull his gun and engage targets accurately for like 30 seconds to a full minute after being sprayed. So it will not cause immediate blindness, but it will eventually cause incapacitation and blindness. During the time where that is taking effect on the person that you have sprayed it with, they are very likely to grab a hold of you and roll around with you. Think about any fight that you've seen ever. Fights almost always go to the ground. So if you think about someone who is very spicy and covered in this chicken wing juice on steroids, rubbing themselves all over you while they're trying to wrestle whatever it is that you have in your hands from you, you are very likely to become super spicy as well. And that's one of the reasons that law enforcement, for instance, stopped issuing it in many locales, because after having sprayed the assailant with it, they would then have to cuff them and put them in their cruiser. And that person is rolling around in the cruiser. And now the cruiser has to be cleaned. And you see where we're going. Pepper spray is for bears, not people. Now, one of the things that the article does get right that I think is pertinent to this discussion about less lethal options is they quoted Tactical Girlfriend, which is a trans content creator in the firearms space. I don't know this person, but what they said was that you should go get training. And I 100% agree with them that training is exceptionally important, especially when it comes to the less lethal things, because the margin of error on the less lethal things is considerably higher than the lethal force things. There are greater consequences for the lethal force applications, but the less lethal stuff is more likely to fail if you have not trained with it. So that moves me on to my suggestions for my lady folk out there as it pertains to options for self-defense. I used to say that you ought to go out and get a Glock 19 size gun. And I have now amended my position on the Glock 19 size gun because particularly for my little tiny females, that grip on the Glock 19 is still super meaty. And I mean, I have to look at this from the perspective of someone who's like, my thumb is bigger than an inch in diameter. Okay. Like, this is bigger than some of your men out there, ladies. And I have literally had someone tell me that before. Oh my God, I can't believe I just said that on camera. You know what? We're leaving it in because it was real. What I'm trying to say is that I got big hands, and this is not something that has ever concerned me. But I recognize that this could be a problem for people with little tiny hands. And you know what they say about people with big hands? Stop it. Stop it, you animal. You'll never make it through this if you don't stop. What I'm saying is that you may not be able to get your hand around the grip of the Glock. Oh my God. You may not be able to get your hands around the grip of the Glock 19, and to measure that, you grip the gun, and can you reach all the controls with your thumb, or do you have to like flip the gun a little bit to get to it? If that is you, then I need you to look at the P365 from Sig Sauer. It is a considerably smaller footprint of a gun. The grip is much, much narrower, and Sig has done some good work on the magazine technology and how the rounds stack. That gun now holds 10 at its base, and with the extended magazines, that now holds 12. And that rivals the Glock 19's 15 in a considerably smaller footprint. They make the regular one, the P365 XL. It's got some more features in there. Check those ones out as a viable self-defense handgun. Now, handguns are what we use when we're out and about, but they will do in a pinch in the home. When you get home, your self-defense weapon should be a shoulder-fired weapon. Many will push people towards the shotgun. And I could go into a long dissertation about recoil and reliability and, you know, the capacity of the gun and all that sort of stuff. But I think the easiest way to distill this down is that maybe we shouldn't take firearms self-defense advice from people like Joe Biden and Tim Walz.
If you want to protect yourself, get a double-barrel shotgun, have the shells, a 12-gauge shotgun, and I promise you, as I told my wife, we live in an area that's wooded and somewhat secluded. I said, Jill, if there's ever a problem, just walk out on the balcony here or walk out, put that double-barrel shotgun and fire 2 blasts outside the house. I promise you, who's ever coming in is not going to, you don't need an AR-15. It's harder to aim, it's harder to use, and in fact, you don't need 30 rounds to protect yourself. Buy a shotgun.
I mean, besides the fact that the behavior that he just advocated for is almost certainly illegal where you live, and you will absolutely be prosecuted for behaving in that way, everything that he said in that clip is objectively false. Metatron, how do I feel about this guy?
I have zero respect for this man. Zero, no.
They are not heavy. They are not harder to use. They are not harder to aim. If they were, then they wouldn't be the most popular firearm in America. Nobody would use them if that was the case. So that doesn't pass cognitive muster. And when it comes to the 30 rounds thing, you very well might need 30 rounds or more if you have more than one assailant entering your home. We have seen it time and time again where these types of weapons have been used in self-defense against armed home invaders that usually show up in groups. And I don't know about you ladies, but I don't got a whole lot of extra pockets for extra ammo at 2 o'clock in the morning. And I know that many of you find yourself in that orientation at night. Having the ammunition on the weapon and has been recognized by the courts at this point in time, sometimes is your only option. The AR-15 is my suggestion for your home defense shoulder-fired weapon, and in many instances, bad guys know what black rifles mean. So anyway, we are way over time when it comes to that. I said that I would give you 3 female personalities that you should go look for when it comes to firearms advice. These are women that I know, I have physically met, I have shot with. So there are many other ones out there that you can use as resources, but these are just the ones that I can, off the top of my head, point to and say, yeah, these are good ladies that know their crap. Rachel B on Instagram, Rapid Fire Rachel, fantastic shooter. Ava Flanell needs no introduction whatsoever. She is well established in our industry, and she actually goes out and trains people, and so does Carrie, although I don't know that Carrie uses her last name on stilettos and shotguns. That's the account that you should look up. Anyway, as I mentioned, we are way over time. Thank you for tuning in to the VSO Gun Channel. If you are a dude, send this video to your ladies, and hopefully we'll see you on another video here at the VSO Gun Channel.